Migration policies of the Irish state has created chaos across the country with so many protests in the last year. We've seen in the last year people on the streets because of lack of services, lack of facilities, lack of infrastructure and serious lack of integration policies being pursued by the Irish state. They've deliberately tried to divide people by pushing this policy on people, pitting people against people, rather than focusing on the real perpetrators of this disaster, the Irish political establishment. The political establishment in particular have profited their rich friends, wealthy business owners, corporate interests at the expense of the ordinary people. So rather than direct people's ire at other people, we should be looking at the 1% in society. Now, there are genuine reasons and genuine concerns with people in working class communities, such as lack of services, as I said, lack of access to GP services, 1 million people on hospital waiting lists, up to 14,000 people in emergency accommodation in Ireland, over 300,000 people so-called hidden homeless, and huge issues of inequality and poverty. And fundamentally it asks us a question of democracy. In the context of the Irish Constitution, Article 6 states that the policy of the state should derive from the people of the state. So when was the last time any of us were asked about our position on the policies of the Irish state, such as the chaos we're seeing with all the policies pursued by the Irish state? But in particular, they're profiting their rich friends, their wealthy corporate interests and big hotel groups. In the last number of days, a report came through to say that over 650 million euro has been spent on providing accommodation for asylum seekers over the first 6 months of 2023. So it's an extortionate amount of money being transferred out of our public purse to enrich the coffers of wealthy companies. And it's interesting in this report as well, it made 184 companies have been millionaires out of this. So many rich individuals here in Ireland have made huge money by profiting from the misery of others and profiting from this lucrative money-making industry that the government has created. As I said, to transfer public money to enrich the already wealthy and the 1% in society. In Ireland recently, an Oxfam report stated that the top 1% in society had over 35.4% of the wealth. That's extortionate. If that wealth was redistributed with proportionate taxes, Oxfam estimated up to 9.2 billion euro could be redirected to aid our services, our public services, our health, our education, our housing, and all these disasters through the neoliberal policies of the Irish state, who bow down to their bosses in Brussels at every opportunity rather than serve the interests of the ordinary people here in Ireland. And the context of this, millionaires being made out of this migration industry, a couple of companies spring to mind. The top earning company is a company called Cape Wrath. Now it's interesting, in the first 6 months of 2023, they earned just short of 30 million euro providing accommodation. Now they would own the City West Hotel out in Saggart in West Dublin, and they provide accommodation for asylum seekers. It's up to 764 bedrooms in that hotel. And what's interesting about it is that it's owned by a company called Tetrarch Capital. It's based in that building, Europa House behind me, on Harcourt Street in Dublin city centre. The Tetrarch Capital was founded in 2011 by James Byrne and Michael McElligott as primarily a real estate company. They got involved in purchasing the Mount Juliet Hotel, if people know that, in Kilkenny, famous golf resort. They've recently purchased Deer Park Hotel in Howth and all the grounds around there, and the plans are to make a luxury golf course out there as well. And interestingly enough, part of the conditions of that sale of Howth Castle and that area around there was actually Ireland's Eye, which is an iconic part of Irish history, and that is now in the possession of these vulture capitalists making huge money from the misery of other people. But in the last number of years they moved and redirected into the hotel business. And interestingly, back in 2019-2020 period, City West was a loss-making venture. And then it started getting involved in government contracts. It provided much profitable isolation centres during the COVID period of time, and made huge money through those state contracts, providing in isolation centres and testing centres also as well, and then moved into making serious profits. And then the last number of years we've seen the move across into the migration industry and make serious profits from, as I said, the misery of others. Back during the COVID period, they made €21 million out of the public purse, transferred into the coffers of the already wealthy. So it's interesting. If you consider in the world during that period of time, 5 billionaires over doubled their wealth during that period, with a huge transfer of wealth towards the already rich and the laptop classes in society, which was the impacts of lockdowns. We saw the rich get richer, essentially, the poor get poorer, and not to mention the huge devastating impacts of lockdowns as well. But again, we've seen these corporations, as I said, make huge profits while people are struggling to keep a roof over their head and afford a place to live. It's absolutely disgraceful, but shows who the government represents. On the lobbying register, this company, Tetrarch, have met officials from governments and opposition parties. Owen O'Brien they met once regarding a planning application they were looking for City West. So again, we know who the political establishment work for. They work for and uphold the 1%. They enforce the consensus what's being pushed at us through the neoliberal agenda in the European Union, which has caused so much devastation across society. And yet we see the profits that these people are still making to the cost of ordinary people. And in the context of this as well, it's interesting because other companies that are involved in this are Brimwood, who were the second highest rated company in the 6 months of this year, and that's owned by ex-Monaghan GA manager Seamus McEneedy, who has a number of properties around Meath, Cavan, and that location, Monaghan also as well, where he's profiting from it as well. Also other companies such as Travelodge and Tifco. Tifco Group is interesting as well because obviously they were involved in providing mandatory hotel quarantine for the state. They own a lot of the Crown Plaza hotels in Blanchardstown and Santry and those locations around Dublin. And obviously they're involved also in the Travelodge Group as well, which currently has UK directors, but Tifco is heavily invested in that. And behind these corporations, it's interesting to know who funds these people. Tifco in particular is funded by Apollo Global Management. So follow the money up to the top of society, up to the 1% who make absolute huge profits from this. And if people remember, Apollo Management were one of the vulture funds that came in and hoovered up so much of the distressed mortgages after the time of the bank bailout, where Irish people were savaged with over 43% of the total European banking debt because of the ills of the big banksters at the top of society, who made absolutely huge fortunes and are still making huge fortunes now with the private equity companies coming in, bankrolling companies like Tifco and making huge profit out of the misery of so many other people. But again, this is who the political establishment represent. They represent the interests of the 1% who are making huge money at our expense. But it really fundamentally asks a question of democracy, and it fundamentally asks a question of the policies of the state and who the politicians should serve. The whole idea of public service has gone out the window with these people. They're more interested in looking after their own positions, moving on to nice cushy positions in the European Union, IMF, or wherever they choose to move beyond Ireland on their big, huge pensions. And there's no accountability in Irish society. We need to get back to people who are serving people who are interested in serving the ordinary people, and putting the interest of democracy first, where people have local powers in their local communities in terms of their sovereignty. And that is incumbent on each and all of us to speak up about what's going on and uncover the misery behind the profits that these corporate giants are making. And it falls all the way back to the top 1% in society, all facilitated by government policies. Thanks for the support. Please support my work through Buy Me a Coffee. And thanks to everybody who's supposed to be on that platform. Press subscribe to my YouTube channel. Press like to my Facebook page. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on X as well. And thanks for all the support. Take care. See you all soon. Bye bye.